The 1970s were a golden era when R&B albums didn't just top charts, they changed the very feel of American music. These are the 10 highest-selling R&B albums of the 70s, records that still move hearts and shape memories today. Number 10. That's the Way of the World. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Come together on this special day.
When this album hit shelves in 1975 under Columbia Records, Earth, Wind, and Fire were already ascending fast, but this was the moment they broke into the stratosphere. The band was experimenting with spiritual themes, jazz harmonies, and lush horn arrangements, searching for a sound that felt bigger than the radio itself. What they created was a cosmic fusion, soul music that reached for the heavens.
All right. Oh, so you got some soul too,
Behind the scenes, the group was juggling a film project with the same name, a movie that flopped so hard most fans didn't even know it existed. But the soundtrack, that was the true masterpiece. Shining Star wasn't even supposed to be a major single, but once DJs caught wind of its spark, it lit up dance floors everywhere. You can almost picture it. 1975, a smoky basement party, mirror ball spinning slow, and that opening guitar lick sending everybody into motion. The album topped the Billboard 200, a rare feat for an R&B band at the time, and went on to multi-platinum sales. Its blend of positivity and power then still influences artists, from neo-soul storytellers to modern funk revivalists. And if this was the cosmic liftoff, trust me, the next album on our list takes the groove into a whole new direction. Number 9. Songs in the Key of Life. Stevie Wonder.
Good morning or evening, friends.
Stevie Wonder's 1976 masterpiece arrived through Motown's Tamla label at a moment when he could have simply coasted on his already mythic reputation. Instead, he locked himself in the studio for nearly 2 years, crafting an album meant to capture the full spectrum of human experience. Love, pain, joy, struggle, and everything in between. By the time it hit stores, anticipation was so high that record shops opened early just to handle the crowds. There's a legendary rumor that Stevie was so deep into the creative process, he nearly scrapped the whole thing 2 different times, convinced it wasn't perfect yet. Producers begged him to stop adding new tracks. Musicians joked they needed studio residency permits. But when you hear the layered harmonies of Love's in Need of Love Today or the ecstatic rush of Sir Duke, you understand why he couldn't let go. Imagine hearing it fresh in '76, the warm crackle of vinyl, sunlight hitting the living room carpet, kids dancing around while parents leaned back in orange velvet sofas, letting Stevie's melodies wash through the house. It wasn't just an album. It felt like a family reunion, a sermon, and a block party all at once. Songs in the Key of Life shot straight to number 1, staying there for weeks, eventually becoming one of the best-selling and most decorated R&B records of the decade.
Did you ever think that love would be in need of love?
Its influence is immeasurable. Sampling, songwriting, vocal technique. Even the structure of modern albums trace back to Stevie's ambition here. And while this record gave us life lessons wrapped in soul, the next entry shifts us into a smoother, silkier lane that defined late-night 70s romance like nothing else. Number 8. Give Me the Night. George Benson by 19...
Whenever dark is falling.
80, George Benson was already respected as one of jazz's most gifted guitarists. But the late 70s is where he fully crossed into R&B superstardom. Produced under Warner Brothers, Give Me the Night arrived at the very tail end of the decade, August 1980. But its massive sales and momentum were born directly from Benson's late 70s rise. Quincy Jones was brought in to polish the sound, And what they created together was a luxurious blend of jazz, soul, and dance floor sparkle that felt like the soundtrack of every after-hours spot from LA to New York.
Don't you know we can fly? Just give it.
Here's the twist. Benson was hesitant to sing lead on so many tracks. He'd always seen himself as a guitarist first. Quincy reportedly told him, "Your voice is an instrument, use it," pushing Benson into the spotlight in a new way. And thank goodness for that encouragement, because those buttery vocals gave the record its irresistible warmth. Picture it. The soft glow of streetlights bouncing off vinyl car interiors, lovers cruising through the city as the smooth opening chords of "Give Me the Night" slip through the speakers, or the feeling of stepping into a dimly lit lounge, the clink of ice in glasses, the shuffle of dancers, and that unmistakable Benson groove floating above the crowd. It was R&B for grown folks, stylish and confident. The album went platinum, topping R&B charts and winning multiple Grammys. Its influence continues in every modern blend of jazz and soul, from neo-soul crooners to chill R&B playlists today. If Give Me the Night was the soundtrack to sophisticated romance, the next album on our list brought raw energy, unity, and positivity that electrified arenas across the world. Number 7, Spirit. Earth, Wind, and Fire. As the mid-70s rolled in, Earth, Wind, and Fire were evolving from an innovative funk collective into a true cultural force. Released in 1906 on Columbia Records, Spirit found the group refining their cosmic blend of soul, jazz, funk, and spiritual uplift. This was the album where Maurice White leaned even deeper into messages of harmony and higher purpose, threads that wove through the band's identity and resonated with a generation hungry for hope. What many fans don't know is that Spirit was recorded during a deeply emotional period for the band. Maurice had been collaborating with the visionary producer and arranger Charles Stepney, whose work helped shape the group's signature sound. But tragically, Stepney passed away suddenly during production. Rather than halt the project, EWF poured their grief into the music, finishing the album as a tribute to their fallen mentor. The emotional charge hangs in the air on every track. Close your eyes and drift back to 1906, a summer day. Windows open, the warmth of the sun glowing on patterned curtains. From the turntable, Getaway burst through with pure jubilation. Horns blazing, rhythms flying, the kind of groove that pulls you into motion whether you plan to dance or not.
You love, hey, you love.
This was the soundtrack of cookouts, street festivals, and long drives to nowhere in particular. The album soared across R&B charts and pushed EWF further into global superstardom. Its messages of positivity helped define the band's legacy, and its sound still echoes through today's R&B, funk, and even pop fusion acts. And while Spirit lifted listeners higher, the next record on our list grounded them, bringing intimacy, soul-bearing vocals, and storytelling that helped reshape what R&B albums could be in the 70s. Number 6, Roberta, Flack, and Donny Hathaway. Roberta, Flack, and Donny Hathaway. Released in 1972 on Atlantic Records, this unforgettable duet album captured two of the most emotionally expressive voices of the era at the height of their creative powers. Roberta Flack was coming off breakout success, and Donny Hathaway was deep into shaping his signature blend of gospel-rooted soul and orchestral elegance. When the label paired them, no one could have predicted the chemistry. They didn't just harmonize, they felt together, creating an intimacy so real it seemed like the listener was eavesdropping on two hearts in conversation. The hidden story behind the sessions is how nervous both artists initially were. Hathaway was battling intense self-doubt, and Flack was known to be a perfectionist. Yet, once they stepped into the studio and let the music breathe, magic began unfolding, often in single takes. Where Is the Love became the surprise hit, recorded almost casually after a late-night writing session. That gentle guitar strum, those soft vocals blending, it sounded like a whispered secret carried through a quiet apartment window on a warm evening. Imagine hearing it in '72, a couple slow dancing in a living room lit only by a lamp, the record spinning softly as the world outside fell away. Their voices wrapped around listeners like familiar arms, warm and reassuring. The album went gold and solidified both artists as pillars of '70s R&B, influencing duets for generations, from Luther and Cheryl Lynn to modern neo-soul pairings. And while this record captured tender connection, the next entry turns up the heat with a sound that made dance floors erupt all across the decade. If these timeless '70s albums are bringing back memories, give this video a thumbs up. It helps keep the soul alive. And stick around. We've still got 5 more groundbreaking best-selling classics to uncover. Number 5, Off the Wall, Michael Jackson.
Like it's so bad at all. You live it.
In 1979, released through Epic Records, Off the Wall marked Michael Jackson's transformation from child star to fully realized solo powerhouse. He'd already shown flashes of brilliance with the Jacksons, but this album, crafted alongside the genius of Quincy Jones, was where everything came into sharp, electrifying focus. Michael was 21, hungry, and determined to break free from every box the industry tried to place him in. A fun piece of studio lore. Michael reportedly recorded some vocal takes in complete darkness so he could feel the music instead of seeing the room.
When the word is on your shoulder, gotta straighten.
Quincy encouraged these experiments, and the emotional clarity in songs like I Can't Help It and She's Out of My Life shows just how deeply Michael connected to every line. Meanwhile, the dance tracks, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You, felt like pure neon energy bouncing off a disco ball. Listeners in '79 will never forget that feeling, the world shifting as soon as the needle hit the vinyl. Picture a Saturday night house party, orange shag carpet, punch bowl on the table, and the moment Rock With You comes on, the whole room melting into one smooth, slow groove sway. Couples found love to this record, friendships bonded over it. DJs built entire nights around it.
'Cause when the party people night and day living.
The album went on to sell millions worldwide and redefined what an R&B pop crossover could sound like. It laid the blueprint for the modern superstar album, cohesive, polished, and irresistibly soulful. And while Off the Wall brought that glossy groove, the next album on our countdown brought raw edge, deep emotion, and a message that hit straight at the heart of America in the early '70s. Number 4, What's Going On, Marvin Gaye.
Oh, what's going on? What's going on?
Released in 1971 on Motown's Tamla label, What's Going On wasn't just an album. It was a turning point in American music. At the time, Marvin Gaye was Motown royalty, but he was grieving the death of his close friend Tammy Terrell and wrestling with the turbulence of the Vietnam era. When Four Tops member Ronaldo "Obi" Benson brought him the skeleton of a song called What's Going On, Marvin felt something spark.
I wanna know what.
But Motown founder Berry Gordy, he hated it, called it too political, too dark, too uncommercial. Marvin refused to record anything else until the label released the track. That defiance paid off. The moment the single dropped, radio stations were overwhelmed with requests. People heard the hurt, the hope, the aching beauty in Marvin's layered harmonies. Rumor has it, some of those harmonies happened by accident. Marvin had a habit of singing multiple takes, and engineer Ken Sands accidentally played two at the same time. Marvin loved the sound so much, he built the whole album around that style. Imagine sitting in a Detroit apartment in '71. The smell of collard greens cooking down the hallway, kids playing in the street, and the soft crackle of the record player as Marvin's voice drifted out. Gentle but insistent, like a prayer for the neighborhood. Tracks flowed seamlessly, one into the next, creating a spiritual tapestry of grief, hope, and love. The album sold millions, becoming one of the highest-selling and most critically acclaimed R&B albums of the entire decade. Its influence stretches far beyond soul. Hip-hop, pop, jazz, and socially conscious music of all genres trace their roots to this masterpiece. And if Marvin captured the heart of the nation, the next album on our list captured its groove. A soundtrack that turned every living room into a dance floor. Number 3, Inner Visions. Stevie Wonder.
I'm too high, but ain't.
Released in 1973. On Motown's Tamla label, Inner Visions was Stevie Wonder stepping into his full visionary power. Socially aware, musically daring, and spiritually searching. By this point, Stevie was deep into his creative renaissance, crafting albums that felt like living, breathing testaments to the times. But Inner Visions hit a new height, weaving together political commentary, inner reflection, and pure groove with a maturity far beyond his years. There's a dramatic story etched into this album's legacy. Just days after its release, Stevie was in a near-fatal car accident. The crash left him in a coma for days, and many feared he wouldn't regain his musical abilities. When he finally woke, one of the first things he reportedly responded to was music. Someone playing Higher Ground softly in the hospital room. It was as if the very song he had written about spiritual rebirth helped guide him back. Spin the record, and the '73 world comes alive. Picture a warm evening in a small city apartment. Incense drifting through the air, a lava lamp bubbling on the shelf. The needle drops on Too High, and suddenly you're floating, caught between the vibrancy of funk and the introspection of soul. Then comes Living for the City, a cinematic, street-level journey that felt so real listeners could practically hear footsteps echoing across the sidewalks of New York.
I'm too high, I can't.
The album soared commercially and critically, winning multiple Grammys and selling millions worldwide. Its socially conscious storytelling paved the way for generations of artists, everyone from Prince to Erykah Badu to modern R&B philosophers. And while Inner Visions challenged listeners to think deeply, the next album on our list invited them to dance and created a cultural wave that still grooves today. Number 2, That's the Way of the World. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Do you feel all right?
Though we featured another EWF masterpiece earlier, this 1975 Columbia Records release is the one that became a true phenomenon. One of the decade's top-selling R&B albums and a crown jewel in the band's catalog. By '75, Maurice White and his musical family were refining a sound that blended African rhythms, jazz structure, gospel uplift, and universal themes of love and unity. That's the Way of the World wasn't just an album, it was a spiritual experience wrapped in rhythm. Behind the scenes, the band was simultaneously working on the soundtrack for a film of the same name, a movie that ultimately vanished from memory. But the music, it eclipsed everything. Shining Star almost didn't make the cut, Band members joked that it was too raw, too rough. But once they tightened it up and played it back in the studio, they knew they'd created lightning. That signature horn blast still hits like sunrise breaking through the blinds. Picture a community block party in '75. Kids chasing each other around fire hydrants, grown folks lined up folding chairs on the sidewalk, the grill smoking, and that unmistakable groove from That's the Way of the World sliding out of a big silver boombox. The album felt like summertime optimism, hopeful, bright, and reaching for something bigger. The record went multi-platinum, topping both R&B and pop charts and becoming an essential touchstone for generations of soul, funk, and R&B acts. Its lush arrangements influenced everyone from Quincy Jones to modern-day funk revivalists. And as uplifting as this album was, our #1 entry didn't just uplift. It transformed an entire genre and became one of the most iconic records ever made. Number 1. Songs in the Key of Life. Stevie Wonder.
Change your joy and laughter to tears.
Here We Are, the pinnacle. Released in 1976. On Motown's Tamla label, Songs in the Key of Life wasn't just the highest-selling R&B album of the '70s. It became one of the most celebrated albums in the history of recorded music. By the mid-'70s, Stevie Wonder was working at a level few artists had ever reached. A creative peak fueled by emotion, activism, and a fearless urge to expand what soul music could be. The scale of this project was enormous. Rumor has it Stevie brought in more than 130 musicians, experimenting with everything from funk bass lines to delicate string quartets. The session stretched so long that Motown executives grew nervous, but Stevie kept pushing, refining, recording, layering, living the music. When asked why it took so long, he simply said, "I wanted to describe life." And that's exactly what he did. Imagine hearing it brand new in '76, the warm pop of the needle, the living room glowing in the soft haze of evening, kids sprawled on the shag carpet as Love's in Need of Love Today eased in, a gentle prayer wrapped in harmony. Then came the joy of Sir Duke, the groove of I Wish, the spiritual fire of As. It felt like an entire universe pressed into vinyl, each track revealing another corner of Stevie's heart. The album debuted at #1, sold millions worldwide, and earned multiple Grammys, including Album of the Year. But its legacy stretches even further. Hip-hop producers sample it, vocalists study it, songwriters revere it. Songs in the Key of Life became a blueprint for musical ambition, a reminder that soul can be both deeply personal and endlessly expansive. If this wasn't the mountaintop of '70s R&B, nothing would be. But don't go anywhere, because the journey isn't over yet. From dance floor magic to spiritual revelation, these albums proved the '70s were a decade like no other, a time when soul music soared, expanded, healed, and united. Thanks for joining us on this soul stroll through the best-selling R&B albums of the era. If you enjoyed this ride, subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss our next countdown. And for your next stop, click the end screen to roll straight into our video on 10 highest-selling R&B albums of the '60s. Let's keep the rhythm moving.